let's take it over to a driver that is going to be doing a lot more than trying this season, or at least he hopes, Lewis Hamilton. So, prior to last season, the 7-time world champion announced his departure from Mercedes in favor of the vaunted Ferrari. Perhaps in spite of the lame duck season, Lewis went on to win 2 races in 2024 with Mercedes, ending a grueling winless drought in his final season with the team. That set off a chain of events impacting 3 teams: Ferrari, Mercedes, and Williams. With Lewis heading to Ferrari, Mercedes needed a driver, so they called up 18-year-old dynamo Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli was rumored to go to Williams, but that ultimately fell through. Williams' Logan Sargent lost his ride towards the end of last season, so the British-based operation had an opening for 2025 that they soon filled with Carlos Sainz, who would be out of a ride at Ferrari because of Lewis Hamilton. So, since they scooped up the second-generation racer at Williams, that driver has now lined up for half of the teams on the F1 grid. So, all 3 drivers will have various expectations from their respective teams. Mara, I'll kick this one over to you. Which driver will have the most pressure to perform in 2025 of those 3?
So, as you know, I'm based in Italy, so I see a lot of Italian press, and they are putting a lot of pressure on Lewis Hamilton. He's asked to bring a different mindset to Ferrari, to perform immediately because he's an experienced driver, to improve Leclerc performances, to be able to be a future champion. In addition, people here are also mentioning his past records, like, he beat Fernando Alonso in his first year in McLaren. So, have you seen the big event in Milan last Thursday? So, the hype here is very, very high on him and Ferrari.
I believe that Kimi Antonelli has the most amount of pressure coming in as a rookie at such a strong team. It's going to put a lot of pressure on him to bring those points for the Constructors' Championship. Obviously, last year testing when he crashed out in FP1, I understand it was a little bit challenging with that car, at least during that year. But I feel like he has a lot of pressure to perform. Even though we haven't mentioned this driver, I feel like Liam Lawson, because he's kind of in the same boat. Yes, he's more experienced with having races under his belt, but just being a rookie at such a high-profile team where construction points matter, it's gonna be challenging for them to meet that higher standard.
Yeah, I think this season, there's so many different possibilities of what we're going to see. Personally, I think Carlos Sainz, out of all of them, is probably, in my opinion, going to have the most difficulty, not just because of his performance this season, but because he has to secure, ideally, a better place at a better team in the future. I think we're going to see a lot of shuffling around after the season with new regulations, new teams possibly entering the grid in the near future. And I think Carlos has found himself in kind of the not ideal circumstance of being at a team you might not want to be at, obviously a downgrade from Ferrari, and kind of struggling to figure out what you're going to do next. Because let's be honest, Williams should not be the last stop for Carlos. I think we would all be very sad to see his F1 career end at Williams. We want the best for him. We'd like to see a championship from him. He's a fan favorite. And so in that sense, I think just the pressure to perform to the other people in the paddock and the other teams who will hopefully be keeping an eye on him is going to be really intense.
I think hearing all your thoughts, I changed my mind quite a few times actually, but I could definitely see all 3 drivers under huge pressure this season. But I'm going to have to agree with the Lewis Hamilton side of things. Lewis Hamilton is joining Ferrari, one of the biggest teams on the grid that just missed out on the Constructors' Championship last season, and Lewis Hamilton just felt so energized going into that team. He can see an opportunity for growth for him. The Italian fans love him, so if the Italians see Lewis Hamilton not do very well, then that's not going to look good for Lewis Hamilton, and he's probably going to hang out his boots. I think Lewis Hamilton could be under huge pressure. Antonelli probably under huge pressure as well, because he has to deliver. Without Lewis Hamilton, Hamilton's not going to be at the team anymore. Mercedes have got to try and beat Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and Antonelli's got to score points. Sainz, I think, is under the least pressure because he's got the Williams team, but he wants to try and get a bigger seat. but I can definitely see outside those three drivers, Liam Lawson having the most pressure out of all 20 drivers on the grid, because he's got to prove that Christian Horner and the Red Bull team made the right decision putting Lawson in Red Bull instead of Yuki Tsunoda.